On the still shores of Changi Beach, the crying bride searches endlessly for her lost groom. Will you dare to meet her gaze? Crying Bride of Changi Beach, submitted by Melissa Teo. They say that many, many years ago, when Changi Beach was long before it was a hippie tourist and family destination, there was a wedding. Simple, intimate, with just the close family and friends attending. It was held near the water's edge as the soft hues of a tropical sunset painted the sky. They said, too, that the bride was brilliant in white, her dress flowing like the waves that lapped teacups to the shore. The groom, tall and handsome, stood proudly beside her, promising eternal love. That day, something went all wrong. Nobody knows what exactly happened, but by the time the last rays of the sun had hid under the horizon, the groom had vanished. Some said he was taken by the sea, pulled screaming into its dark recesses without ever leaving a mark. Others said he ran away, terrorized by that which he could not explain. Whichever it was, it left the bride alone on the beach, her tears mingling with the salt of the sea. They say she never left. The story had always intrigued me. I was first told about it when I was a child, sitting on my grandmother's balcony that overlooked Changi, which was not very far away. The waves crashed softly and rhythmically, a steady accompaniment to the macabre atmosphere. She told me about the crying bride, the bride who walked the beaches at night in her white wedding gown, her veil fluttering behind her like a ghostly mantle. And if you listen closely, my grandmother said, you could hear her soft sobbing, calling out for the groom who never returned. At the time, I laughed at the very idea. I was too young to take it seriously, too willing to brush off ghost stories as old wives' tales. But as I grew older, the story began to cling to me like a shadow. The whispers of the bride from friends, classmates, and even random people in the neighborhood reached my ears. Well, over the years, this rumor became a continuous cycle. Amidst a lot of variations, the core remained the same. The bride was still there on Changi Beach, waiting, crying, and searching along the endless cycles. It wasn't until much later, already in my 20s, that I began to take the tale seriously. The rumors had not died down. If anything, they appeared to grow. Friends who went on the beach late at night after parties or gatherings would claim to have seen her. Some claimed to have seen her from their peripheral vision, a figure in white standing near the foamy edges. Others swore they heard her, the soft, sorrowing sobs of a woman lost in sorrow. What struck me more, however, was that they were consistent in their stories. Nary one of my friends was prone to entertain superstition, and none gave similar accounts. That curiosity, which had lain in me for years, started to stir once more. I had to find out whether the bride was true, if that ghostly figure on the beach was something more than a legend. One night, I just thought of going to Changi and seeing things for myself. It was Friday night over 11 p.m., and the atmosphere was so still. The murmurs of chatter from the late-night visitors, the picnickers, had stopped, and all I could hear was the soft sound of waves brushing against the shore. The moon was low hung in the sky, casting long silvery shadows down the length of the sand. I walked the beach, feeling the cool grain shift under my feet, the breeze brushing past me like a whisper. I scanned the shoreline for anything out of the ordinary. At first, there was nothing, just the empty beach, dark water, and endless horizon. I walked for what felt like hours, heart pounding in anticipation. But all I saw was sand and sea. And then out of the corner of my eye, something caught, a slight movement along the water's edge. I whirled promptly, my breath catching in my throat. Standing there was a figure in white. Her silhouette was lit by soft moonlight. My pulse quickened, and for a moment, I thought it was a trick of the light, my imagination playing their game on me. But as I drew closer, the figure turned clear, distinct. It was her, the bride. She stood with her back to me, her veil softly fluttering in the breeze, her white gown shimmering like silk in the moonlight. I froze, unsure of what to do. My head was reeling with questions. Should I call out to her? Should I run? Was this actually happening? Before I could answer, she began to walk. Casually, she strolled down the beach, as light and quiet as if her feet were not touching the ground. My heart was heavy with an inexplicable feeling in my chest, but I knew helplessly that I had to follow her. The air seemed to grow cold around me with each step forward, the pressure of the atmosphere a seeming invisible hand crushing down on me. The farther I walked, the more difficult breathing was, as if even the air was choking me. Suddenly, she came to a stop. She was standing quite still, her head tilted to the side, a listening fashion, as if to hear something or someone far off in the distance. Suddenly, with absolutely no warning, she let out a soft, sorrow-filled sob. It was a sound I'd never heard before, rich sorrow, a deep, aching cry that seemed to pierce the night air. A shiver ran down my spine, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up on its hind legs. What I really wanted to do was turn around and run, to leave the beach and never look back, but I couldn't. My legs felt weighted. I was anchored to the ground, frozen. I wasn't able to take my eyes off her. She began to turn slowly toward me. Her face was pale, almost translucent, her eyes dark and hollow, as if life had been sucked out of her. Her lips moved, but no sound came, only the soft rustle of the wind and the distant cry of the waves. Still, I felt all of her desperation, her longing, her endless search for the man who had left her so long ago. Her gaze swept over the empty beach, passing over me as though I weren't even there. I don't remember how I got home that night. I must have run, though I don't remember doing so. The next morning, after a sleepless night of soaked sheets, I knew one thing for sure. I had seen her. The crying bride was real, just as my grandmother had said. And I wasn't the only one to ever say so either. To this day, people claim to have seen her. They say that if you were to go to Changi Beach late enough, when the full moon rises and the winds are dead, you would catch sight of her walking down its shores in search of her lost groom. All these many years. If you listen hard enough, you can even hear her sniffling, calling out to him. Some people believe the story and take it as true, while others don't put any stock in it. But if you are brave enough, you could go and check out for yourself. Just beware, for once she sees you, she might not want to let you get away.